Welcome to Destiny. In this game, you will be able to play the Menagerie, the Tribute Hall, the Leviathan, Vex Offensive, Escalation Protocol, the Bright Well, the Shadow Throne, Pit of Heresy, Gary Prime, Gambit, the Reckoning, the Crucible, Daily Rockstar Mission, Strikes, the Ordeal, Nightfalls.
That's too much information!
So this is how it kind of feels to start as a completely new player in Destiny 2, and that's why I wanted to make this introduction guide for you guys based on my own experience on how to approach the game as a new player in the best way, because it is incredibly overwhelming. Destiny 2 is a huge game with a lot of systems, a lot of different game modes, and if you don't know what to focus on when you start playing, chances are that you're just going to drown in the overwhelming overload of information that you're going to get from the game itself and from all of your friends that have played the game for 500 hours and knows the games in and outs. Now there's a lot of other starter guides out there, but I wanted to make this one because I think it's missing. I think what a lot of these other guides that you can find on YouTube does is exactly the same as the game does. They overload you with information because they try to give you an introduction to everything in the game. I'm not going to do this. I'm going to tell you how you're going to spend your first maybe 60 hours at most, so you get a nice smooth introduction to the game and the different systems and why it's fun in the first place. Now, to give you a little bit of an introduction, I myself love playing single player games. That's where I'm in my right element. I love Uncharted, I love God of War, I love games like that where it's heavy on the narrative. You play 30, maybe 40 hours and you're done and you play another game. That's kind of my thing. But I have just fallen completely in love with Destiny, and I've played it for more than 350 hours, and I've been grinding to get all of the best gear, and I've been in raids for the first time in my life, and I've just been having a blast with Destiny. Now, when I started playing, you were naturally introduced to all this stuff because you were forced to play all the campaign missions and progress in like this linear, natural way and unlock everything in a very linear way. And so you slowly got introduced to everything and you got all the backstory and all the characters before you reached the end game activities and all the activities that I mentioned here in the start of the video. But today, after the Shadowkeep expansion, you're kind of just thrown into the universe. You're immediately at power level 750 and you can play a lot of different activities without having to get through any kind of backstory or lore or get introduced to any of the characters that you're going to interact with in some of these activities like strikes and so on. And I think that's a little bit of a shame. I get why they did it, but I feel that some players would be thrown off by this, and that's the foundation of my introduction guide for Destiny 2 here, is that you have to create this linear experience for yourself. So the way you do this is that you have to decide what to focus on. Some things you're not going to think about, even you're just going to shut it out until later in the game. Because if you're trying to progress on 100 different things at once, you're just going to progress very, very slowly and it's going to be boring and frustrating. So my advice to you is to focus on getting to know the universe and getting to the top power level. Now, to get to the top power level, you will have to collect gear. Basically, you get gear no matter what you do in Destiny. So it doesn't really matter. You're gonna get new gear and you're gonna get up in power level. Your character's power level is the average of the power level of all your different pieces of gear. So every time you get a new piece of gear that's a higher power level than your current piece of gear, you just equip that piece of gear and your power level will rise. So to get an introduction to the world of Destiny and all the characters at the same time as you're leveling up your power level, you should go to Amanda Holiday in the tower. She's in the hangar and she has all the old campaign missions that you can just pick up from her and start doing. The first one is the Red War, and the second one is the Curse of Osiris, and the third one is called Warmind. If you want to do the campaign that came with the first big expansion to Destiny 2 called Forsaken, you will have to go to your director and go to the destination called the Tangled Shore, and on the map, as you see here, there will be a mission called the Last Call, and that's how you start the campaign for the Forsaken expansion. Now I know that you've probably heard from all of your friends that have played Destiny for a long time that you should just get into the Shadowkeep campaign so you can unlock the nightmare hunts and the new dungeon on the moon and everything new like Vex Offensive and so on. And I agree that stuff is awesome, but it's awesome because me and also your friends, we have all the backstory. We've played through all the old campaigns. We know the context of why stuff is happening on the moon. We know the context of the story in the new campaign. And if you don't know this, it's not going to be as awesome. So to make this as awesome as possible for yourself, you have to hold off for a second and go back and get all the backstory through these old campaigns. And I promise you, when you get to the new stuff, the new story campaign and all the new activities, you will have the same excitement as your friends. Now, when you start playing these old campaigns, you will begin collecting gear, and this gear will have a higher power score than the gear that you currently have, and that's how you will get your power level up. So the power climb is separated into different tiers. So the first tier is your power climb from 750 power level till 900 power level. It's really easy. It's just you just have to go through these campaigns, and every time you get a new piece of gear, it will be higher than the gear you currently have, and when you equip it, your power level will rise. And this will happen just by itself as long as you play these campaigns. When you get to 900, you will enter the second tier of the power level climb. This is where it gets a little bit more difficult, and also where you naturally get introduced to some more of the activities like strikes, like Gambit, like the Crucible. Because what you have to do to climb from 900 power level to 950 is do what is called the powerful challenges, or I think it's actually called weekly challenges. But when you do these challenges, you are awarded what is called powerful gear. And powerful gear is gear that is guaranteed to be higher than your current power level, even if your power level is above 900. So as you can imagine, when you start accumulating all of this gear, you will get a lot of gear that you actually like, and sometimes you will have to change it for some higher level gear that you actually don't like as much as the gear that you had. And my advice for you is just store all of your legendary items, all of them. If you will be faced with the question of, do I dismantle this item or do I store it in my vault for later? A lot of times during this leveling up process, and my advice is just store all of it, and then every once in a while when your vault is close to being filled, you just clean up in the vault. And I'll just show you how I do the cleanup of my vault, just to give you an idea of how to do it in the best way. So, when cleaning up in the vault, your objective is to find out which weapons you want to keep, or armor for that sake, and which you can safely just dismantle and know that you're not going to miss them at a later point. So what I do is I go to my vault and I check out the perks of the weapons, and I go to this website called light.gg, which I'll show you here. What you can do on light.gg is you can just search for the specific weapon that you're looking at, and you can look up the perks and you can see which combination of perks is the ultimate combination for this specific weapon that I'm looking at. And then you can go back to your vault and look at all the different versions of the weapon you have with the different combinations of perks, and you can try to see which one of these versions of this weapon is the closest one to what is called the curated role or the guard role of perks on this weapon. So which weapon of the ones that you have are the closest to the best combination of perks according to light.gg. So when you have found a weapon out of, maybe you have 7 or 8 different versions of one weapon, when you have found the one that you want to keep, you can safely dismantle all the other versions. When you dismantle them, you will get legendary shards, you will get enhancement cores, you will get glimmer. And my advice for you is to save this for when you actually reach 950 power level. And the reason for this is that when you reach 950 power level, you're gonna progress on your power level very slowly. So at this point, you can start to take the gear that you actually like the most, and you can get it up to 950 power level. And you do this by something called infusing the weapon. So what you do is you take a weapon that is 950 power level and you kind of infuse it into the weapon that you want to be 950 power level, and that weapon will then get the power level of the weapon that you infused into that weapon. I hope that makes sense for you. Anyway, you can Google it. There's a lot of explanations for this. But the point is, this costs a lot of resources, like legendary shards and enhancement cores, because you have to buy what is now called an upgrade module, and these module costs a lot of resources. So you will want to save or store some of your resources till that point, because by then you want to get your favorite gear up to 950 power level. Now there's one more reason why I want you to save your legendary shards, and that's because there's an NPC in the game called Xur, Xur, and he appears every Friday and is there from Friday until the next resets on Tuesday, and he can appear in several different spots around the different destinations in Destiny. So to find him, to know where he is, you can either just Google where is Sewer, and there's probably some blog post or Reddit post or something where you can find him. And there's an actual app that you can download for your phone, which I use, that's just called Where is Sewer. So you download this app and it will tell you every week where is the location, what is the selection of exotics that Sewer has this week, and you just look it up and you go there from your director in Destiny 2 and you find him and then you go shopping. And he has what is called faded engrams, and he has a lot of exotic gear as well that you can buy from him for legendary shards. Now he has a selection of 4 exotic items that you can buy from him, and you can just see which items it is. And that's very nice, but the really nice part about Sur is that he has the faded engram, and you can buy 1 faded engram from him each week. And the faded engram gives you an exotic piece of gear that you don't already have. So this is a very important point about the faded engram. It will only be pieces of gear that you don't already have. So visiting Sur once a week and buying the faded engram and buying the other exotics from him if you don't have them already will really increase the speed with which you collect all the exotics in the game. And you need, I think it's 97 legendary shards to buy the faded engram, and that's why you need to save up some of them. So you need to spend at least 97 legendary shards each week to make sure that you're consistently collecting these exotics in a high pace. And trust me, you want the exotics. These make the game so much more fun to play. So before I end this introduction guide for Destiny 2, I would just like to give you guys some short advice on small things you can do that would just make sure that you get even more out of the game as you play it. And the first one is get some bounties. The bounties in the game are small tasks that you can complete, which will give you resources and will give you experience. And you can get them from almost any NPC in the tower. You can get them from almost everyone on each destination, each planet in Destiny 2. There are vendors on the planet, or NPCs, or whatever you want to call them. They have bounties as well that are specific to that planet that you're on. And taking them and completing them will just make sure that you get a little bit more resources all the time and a little bit more experience. So that's nice. The second thing I would advise you to do is to, or just be aware of, that Destiny is a game that requires you to find out a lot of stuff on your own. You need to Google stuff, you need to watch YouTube videos. I have a theory of why they made the game like this. I don't know why they made it like this. I haven't read any official commentary from Bungie on this, but I know that it's something that they are actually being critiqued on, that they don't tell you a lot. There's not a lot of like tutorial stuff in Destiny. You have to kind of figure everything out yourself. Now my theory is that they did this because that would make sure that there's so much content that you can do on, for example, YouTube, like I'm doing right now. I'm making this introduction guide because I think it's missing and Destiny hasn't made it, or Bungie hasn't made it. And I actually think they did that because they knew that that would create a bigger community around the game, because there would be so much content created by the community that are actually playing the game. But I digress. Anyway, you have to get used to this. This was little bit tough for me in the beginning because, as I said to begin with, I'm used to the single player experience where you kind of held by the hand by the developer the whole way through. You're not um, confused about what you have to do. It's very linear, everything. Destiny is not at all like this. You have to figure a lot of shit out. You have to Google stuff, and at first it annoyed me, but when I got used to it, I just now I think it's really nice actually, because anything that I want to do in the game, I can Google like what is the best way to do this, and there will be a really nice guide for it, and that makes my progress a lot faster. That other people are sharing guides on how to do things the best way. So get used to that and start doing that, because you will progress so much faster if you just start Googling stuff when you're in doubt of where you should go or what you should do. Now, the last small piece of advice that I have for you as a new player in Destiny is, as I said in the beginning, you have to focus on some things, and a lot of other things you have to kind of push aside and wait for later. You will get to them. I started in this way. I started with focusing on getting through the campaigns, leveling up my character, getting to the top level. Then I focused on infusing my gear up, the gear that I liked the most. And then I slowly got into looking up what are the best weapons, and how to get those weapons, and I started collecting the different weapons. And now, for example, in Shadowkeep, you have this thing where you can masterwork your armor, and it requires a lot of resources to masterwork a piece of armor. And I would just advise you to forget this before, like when you're in 950 or maybe even 960 power level, then I think it makes sense to start thinking about if you should masterwork your armor pieces. But before that, I think it's a waste of your resources, because you don't know if you're gonna collect even better armor pieces later on that you would rather masterwork than the ones you have masterworked. And also, if you find something else and you have to infuse your armor into that piece, you lose all the masterworking that you have done on that piece of armor. So it's just to make sure that you don't waste these very rare resources that you have to use to masterwork your armor. wait until until you've played a lot of hours and you're in the top level and you're doing the end game activities like raids, and you get a really nice set of raid armor. At that time, I would start looking at masterworking armors if I was you. And until that time, just forget about it. You're gonna get to it, but focus on the stuff that makes sense for you. So that's it. That's my introduction guide for Destiny 2. I hope that you got a lot out of it. I hope that you got a better introduction to the game by following this way of doing things as I lay it out in this guide. If you like the video, it would mean the world to me if you would like the video. If you would share it, that's even more awesome. And if you like the videos that are coming here on Gaming Watcher, please subscribe to the channel, because that helps us get the content out to more people, and also you will get to know when we have a new video out so you don't miss it. So thank you again for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next video. Until next time, have a good one.